Greetings, dear viewers. My name is Luc Tessier, and this is A Form of Sound Words. Former U.S. President John F. Kennedy once said, "Children are the world's most valuable resource and its best hope for the future." Now, you can be sure that when a democratically elected world leader like John F. Kennedy makes a statement like that, it represents the views of most, if not all, of his constituency. Meaning that in his day, in the West, it was a popular idea that children were indeed valuable, a guarantee for the future. 60-some years later, that statement, quite simply, doesn't resonate anymore. We are on the other end of a dramatic shift when it comes to the value we place on children. It was actually in the Kennedy years that the U.S. and the rest of the Western world would embark on a trajectory that would essentially devalue having and raising children. Just a few months before Kennedy took office, the first contraceptive pill was introduced, and thus began the mass use of modern contraceptives. 60 years later, the results are in. Not a single developed Western country is above the replacement fertility rate of 2. 2 people, a mother and a father, having 2 children to replace them. We now have decades of upside-down family trees in the West. That is, 4 grandparents, 2 parents, 1 child. Now, total populations aren't halving with every generation because our leaders are making up the difference through immigration. Now, this devotional isn't going to be a controversial take on immigration. Immigration is a mixed bag. It has its advantages and its disadvantages. And a 10 to 15-minute video isn't going to do that great debate any justice. What I do want to point out is how weird, how dramatic the societal shift on children has been, and how warped and destructive it is. The Bible's very first commandment was, "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And God blessed them. And God said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." God doesn't give harmful commandments. And he didn't say, "Have children if you feel like it. So long as it doesn't harm your bottom line, so long as it doesn't interfere with your career or your diversions and pleasures." No. The Lord commanded us to have children and to love and care for them, as the Lord Jesus Christ did in his earthly ministry. Matthew chapter 19, verse 13 to 15. "Then were there brought unto him little children, that he should put his hands on them and pray. And the disciples rebuked them. But Jesus said, Suffer the little children, and forbid them not to come unto me, for of such is the kingdom of heaven. And he laid his hands on them, and departed thence." This is normal. This is the philosophy and the way of life of a healthy, functional society. A philosophy and a way of life that values, that puts a premium on the presence of children. King Solomon, in all his God-given wisdom wrote, "Grandchildren are the crown of the aged, and the glory of children is their fathers." In Psalm 127 says concerning having children, "Lo, children are an heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward." That's right. Having children is a reward from God. It secures the future. It's not something to be avoided, not something to be put off till other vain pursuits are completed. Having children isn't to be viewed as a negative, as a drag on personal freedom, or a financial liability, or any other kind of burden. Children are an investment in the future. Oh, sure, you may pay a price at first, but it's an investment that pays strong dividends over time. We continue with Psalm 127. "As arrows are in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth. Happy is the man that hath his quiver full of them. They shall not be ashamed, but they shall speak with the enemies in the gate." Note the words, "Happy is the man that hath his quiver full of them," that has a lot of children. That man is like a hunter with a bunch of arrows, not just one or two, a bunch. Also, note the closing remarks about when the enemies show up at the gate. The grown children are going to be the ones to stand at the gate and deal with the enemies. They won't be ashamed. They won't be taken advantage of, nor will they let the enemy take advantage of a now older, mighty man. The children secure the future. This is intuitively true, and history shows it to be true. And yet, here we are. Canada has a fertility rate of 1.33. On 237 countries, that puts us in the 207th spot. The US fares just a bit better at 1.62, good for the 147th spot. The developed world's fertility rate sits at 1.46, and the world's fertility rate over time looks like this. We've strayed so far away from clear wisdom on the matter of having children that even unbelieving leaders and great thinkers are beginning to notice and are sounding the alarm. Funny thing, isn't it? The further a society strays from God's wisdom, the closer to crisis that society gets. Who knew? Again, to quote King Solomon, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding." Look, I get it. We've built a system in the West in which young adults go to college for 5 to 10 years and accrue large debts. So they're in their mid to late 20s, and now they have to pay off those school loans. The housing market is so high into the stratosphere that by the time those school loans get paid off, these young adults are in their mid-30s and can't afford a down payment on a home to house a family. By the time they can finally afford a modest home, the fertility years are nearly over, meaning that if everything lines up perfectly, maybe one child, maybe two. Yeah, that's the pop culture we created. That's the way of life we constructed. Now, may I suggest to simply refuse to play that game and cunningly plan or teach young people to plan ways around the trap of modern life. I speak from experience here. I'm wealthy today. Kind of snuck up on us. My wife and I just recently were talking about this, how all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we became well off. Wasn't always so, I assure you. When my wife and I got married, we both had diplomas from what is essentially community colleges. She was an executive secretary, I was a lab technician. Together, we could pay rent, do the groceries, pay for a car, and save a bit of money. 2 years into our marriage, my wife quit her job, we bought a small townhouse, and had our firstborn son. It stretched our budget, but with careful spending habits, we made it work. 2 years later, we had our daughter. 2 years after that, our third was born. I'll admit, those were living by faith years, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't occasionally worried about making ends meet. But through faith, a lot of self-sacrifice and hustle on both our parts, we made it work. And 4 years into those making it work years, my wife convinced me to have our fourth child. I was fearful, but I had also learned firsthand the real blessing children were, and so I took another step of faith. There was more self-sacrifice. Oh, it was tight. All 6 of us in that little townhouse. There was a lot more hustle required on my wife and I's part. But here we are. Here I am, an old, mighty man with 4 arrows. Now, ask me. Ask me if I regret any of it. Ask me if I regret not having more college and university experiences. Ask me about all the money I lost. Ask me about the nice house with land I never got, the trips to sunny destinations I forewent, the fancy cars I didn't get, driving instead a discount minivan. Ask me about the concerts, the restaurants, the sporting events I couldn't afford to go to. Vanity of vanities, as Solomon put it. Instead of these things, I invested in my children, and I'm already seeing the returns, and they're just starting out in life as young adults. So, to conclude this devotional, dear viewers, there is another way, a better way. Don't wrong your own souls pursuing the wind in lieu of building a family. Make it a priority in your lives, far above the pursuit of career, finances, and diversion. The Lord never steers us wrong, and He says, "Be fruitful and multiply." He's not setting you up for failure. He's setting you up for true success, for true happiness and well-being. It requires faith, to be sure. But here I am, right now, telling you, it's a faith that isn't vain or foolish. It truly is the way of blessing. And with that, dear viewers, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make His face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up His countenance upon you and give you peace.